Welcome to the Sarah Finkelstein Show. Today is February 6, 2022, and I have a question for you. How important is money in your life? It's a very simple question, and you probably have an answer. I have a few slides to share with you. Have you ever thought or said out loud, money is just not important to me? I run across people that have said that to me. It's just not important. I'm not materialistic. I don't need a $5 million house. I don't need a collection of fancy exotic cars parked in an indoor garage. I don't need a $250,000 diamond necklace. I don't need a vacation home on every continent. I'm just not materialistic. And that's fine. That is perfectly fine. To each his own. As they say, different strokes for different folks. But let's face it, some people do have bigger dreams and bigger goals, which may take a lot of money to accomplish. Again, we are all different. It's a given. There's a quote by Tennessee Williams that I really love. You can be young without money, but you can't be old without it. Let me repeat. You can be young without money, but you can't be old without it. What does that mean? Well, let's delve into it. But first, let's define that word, old. How old is old? Sorry, we're having some back and forth here on the slides. Just bear with us. So how old is old? It's a subjective term, I believe. When I first moved down to Florida, I was 29 years old, and I joined a club for newcomers to the area. And a lot of the members of this club were in their early 50s, some were a little bit older than that, 60s and 70s, but I was one of the youngest in this club. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my gosh, 50, that's old. Well, I've been here for over 30 years, so I've gotten older myself. And my definition, my own personal definition, how I look at it, is old is 20 years older than where you are right now. It could be 30 years older, but at minimum, 20 years older than where you're at. And what is young? In my mind, again, it's 20 years younger than where you're at. Could be more than 20 years. But that's how I think of age, and maybe that's how you might think of it too, or maybe something similar to that. But we know that we are living longer than ever before. We've made great strides in the past century, and people are living much, much longer lives. Some people are living well into their 90s. Some people go past 100. But for married couples, this is an interesting statistic. For married couples, life expectancy is such 50% of couples, one out of the couple, there's a 50% chance that one of them will live to the age of 92. And there's a 25% that one out of the couple will make it to 97. And if you've heard this show before, grandma is 99. I'm wondering how many of you have relatives or neighbors or friends that are 90 plus years old. It is a growing segment of the population. So when you're old, well, let me backtrack. When you're young, you don't really need money. Maybe you're still living at home. Maybe you're going to college and your parents are footing the bill for you. So you don't really need a lot of money, maybe just some spending money. And what do you need money for when you're quote unquote old? Well, several different things. A paycheck replacement. So we're assuming that when you are old, you will be retired. You will have already worked in a career or job or business, and now you're no longer actively working full time. So you need something to replace the paycheck that you had from your job, career, or business, right? I mean, we all have, just because we retire, our expenses do not stop. We don't stop eating because we are retired. So we need an income to replace the paycheck that we had in our working years. Secondly, we need money to pay for health care, especially as we age. Healthcare is a big nut to crack. Healthcare is very expensive and has gotten very expensive in the past 10 years. And also extended healthcare. Now, what do I mean by extended healthcare? Well, as we age, there comes a time, or there may come a time for many of us, where we need a little help. We may not be able to do everything that we were able to do before and take care of ourselves. So we might need a little bit of assistance. That is extended health care in retirement, and it is long-term care. So we know that the so-called average cost of being in assisted living is roughly $50,000 a year. Again, depends where, but that's a low ball average. And if you need an aide to come into your home, which most people want to start out that way, you're probably looking at about $4,000 a month for a full-time aide. So these are huge numbers, and that's why we need money in retirement. By the way, isn't money like the air that we breathe? Don't we need it? I mean, think about it. You hop in your car, you leave your home, you hop in your car, and right away, cha-ching, you're spending money because your car needs fuel and fuel costs money. So as soon as you leave your home, you're spending money. And that's why we need money, an ever increasing amount of money to keep up with inflation. This may look funny to you. Tuition, summer camp for older folks? Well, a lot of grandparents enjoy and look forward to becoming grandparents, and they love spending time with their grandchildren. And a lot of grandparents do cover their grandchildren's college tuition. They also may cover their younger grandchildren's summer camp fees. Now, the last time I had a discussion with somebody about summer camp fees, it was about $10,000 per kid for the summertime. need money to do all of these things. Estate taxes. Now, many of us will not need to pay estate taxes. It depends on the size of one's estate, but that is a possibility why older people will need money in their older years. Final expenses. The final expenses would be the burial, any unpaid debts, outstanding medical bills. Those are called final expenses. Unfortunately, most of us have not planned to take care of those final expenses, and that can be another big nut to crack. So also inflation. Now, inflation is huge. Social Security Administration announced last year that we were going to be getting a cost of living adjustment of 5.9%, which was huge because the average cost of living adjustment had been roughly about 1.5%, somewhere in that range. 5.9 is 4 times as much. So why did this happen? Because costs of goods are increasing at a dramatic rate. That is called inflation. We need to account for inflation because with rising costs, we're going to need more money just to maintain the same standard of lifestyle that we've been used to. So we do need money that will take care of those rising costs of goods and services. In summary, let me just pick on 3 factors that are important reasons why people need money when they're older, not necessarily so much when they're much younger. Healthcare costs in retirement is a huge one. For many Americans, if they haven't planned for this, it could wipe out their whole retirement nest egg. That's why it's very, very important. Final expenses, as I just said, and I pick on final expenses simply because most people have not planned for that, and most people have not planned for long-term care expenses as well, those extended healthcare costs. And the other thing that I'm summarizing on is income. Income to replace the paycheck that you had from a job, a career, or a business. So we've covered 6 different areas why people do need money. And even if you're not materialistic, even if you don't want to have a fancy lifestyle, that's perfectly fine. The bottom line is we still need money. Money for food, money for electricity, money for insurance. There's a whole list of items that we need money for. So I do believe, even if you're not materialistic, money is still extremely important. Thank you for joining the Sarah Finkelstein Show, and you can find us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and our website, which is www.signatureadvisorygroup.com. And remember, the decisions we make today affect our tomorrows. Make wise decisions.